Hello. In this video, I will simulate one application that follows FAPI process in order to show the process of authentication and authorization. Okay, this is the Azure public URL, and this is OBP API URL. Because the OBP API is protected with MTLers, we can't directly access the OBP API site. Let me click it. You can see we can't access it. So before we start, we need prepare the client certificate. At least you need have the client certificate key and corresponding client certificate. Use these two files. You can create a pfx and zkx file. Okay, let me import the pfx into the case chain. After I import this pfx, my Chrome can access the OBP API. Okay, double click it, password, and input the pfx password. Okay. Okay, we import the pfx file. After this, let me refresh it and select localhost. Okay. Okay, it is success. This is imported the client certificate for browser. If you create an application, you need to prepare trust store and key store. But different languages and frameworks have different way. Here is the prepare ZKS files for Java application. You can follow the steps. Okay, after you prepare your trust store and key store, you need to create one consumer. Let me create one consumer. Log in and type in the username and password. Okay, get API key. Here, select web application. Application is hello. I supply one URL that not exists. This is not exists. And we can supply the corresponding client certificate, but it is optional. The first time you use the corresponding token, the corresponding client certificate will be binding. And here I input the client certificate. Okay, let me copy all the content, paste it here. Okay, let me copy the auth2 related settings. And paste it here. Okay, let me go back. Okay, the first step is ready. Prepare the bank ID and the consent ID. We can call this endpoint to get all the banks and select one bank ID. Okay, let me call it with the postman. Send. We can't access this endpoint because it is protected by the MTLers, so we need to import the client certificate. Preferences. Certificates. Add certificate. Here is localhost client certificate and corresponding key. And here is the password. Add. Okay, let me try again. Here we get all the banks. Let me copy the bank ID. Copy just one bank ID. Here, paste that here. Okay, that means we already have the bank ID. The next, we prepare the consent ID. We need to create one new access consent and keep the consent ID. Before we call this endpoint, we need to prepare one access token. That access token type is client credentials. Okay, let me prepare the token. First, let me create one JWT send with this private key. This key we create in the first step. It is just this value. Okay, first let me create the JWT payload. The payload content as follow. Here need supply the client ID, the token endpoint, the corresponding time, and this JWT ID. Let me copy it and modify the payload of JWT. The client ID, we get it in the first step. And the token endpoint, is this one. And the expiration time and the issue time, let me calculate with JavaScript. New date and get time. It is we need to convert it to second. The unit is second. So current time is this value. So current time and expiration time, let me change it much bigger. Okay, this is the ID. This ID. Okay, this is the payload. We need send the payload to JWT and send with this private key. Let me copy it. Copy payload. There are two online utils we can create the JWT. Let me just use the first one. Okay, paste the payload. This is the payload and the sending key. The sending key. Okay, after this, generate. We get the JWT value. Okay, we get the JWT. After this, we need to call the token endpoint to create one access token. Okay, let me open the postman again. The postman. Here we call the token endpoint. The client ID we need to change to our client ID. Copy it. And the type is fixed. Client credentials. And this type also fixed. Here is the client assertion. It is just this JWT. So let me copy it. Paste it here. After this, everything is ready. Let me create the access token. Okay, we get the access token. Copy it. The access token. With the access token, we can call this endpoint to create a new access consent. Okay, let me open the postman again. Okay, let me select the authentication type, bear token, and paste the access token. And the request payload. Here is one example. Copy it. Modify the corresponding parameters. For example, the transaction from date time and the to date time, expiration date time. Okay, it is ready. Send. We get the result. Here is the consent ID. The consent ID. So right now, we get the bank ID and the consent ID. The second step is finished. It is finished. Okay, the next step is the third step. Okay, the third step, initiate the auth2 flow. We need to access this URL to start the auth2 flow. All the parameters list as follow. The client ID is the client ID we create at the first step. And the response type, it should be code plus AD token. Here, we can reference the FAPI specification. And here, we need the hybrid flow and return AD token. So the response type should be this one. And the scope, redirect URL. The redirect URL should be the same as the value we prepared at the first step. The state and the nonce should be random string. Here, just the UUID. The consent ID and bank ID prepared at the second step. And the request is the request object. You can reference this specification. This one. Okay, let me prepare all the other parameters, and at last I prepare the request object. Okay, let me copy the URL and paste it here. We need to change the header URL to our local URL. My header URL is that here. The scope don't need to change, and the response don't need to change, and the redirect URL, it should be changed to this value, and need encode. Let me encode with online util. For example, paste that here and encode it. Click it, we get this string, and paste it here. Here is the state and nonce. Client ID, we need to change client ID to this client ID. Client ID. Okay. Bank ID. Where is the bank ID? Here. We prepared at the second step. The consent ID. Consent ID. The request object. Now we prepare the request object. We need to create another ZWT, the payload example as follow, and we need to send it with this private key. It prepared at the first second. The first step. The first step at here. This value. Okay. Let's prepare it. Here is the payload. Payload, we need to change the client ID and the response type. All the value must be the same as this parameter. Okay, let me copy it and modify. The payload. Payload, we need to change the client ID. Scope not need to change. Here is the redirect URL. The redirect URL don't need escape state. The state must the same as this state, and the nonce also must the same as this noise. Okay, it is ready. Let's create corresponding JWT. Okay, payload and the private key at here. Copy it. Private key. Okay, ready. Let me generate. Copy. We get the request object. Here is the payload of JWT. JWT is request object. Okay, let me paste the request parameter. Okay, all the parameter is ready. We can open this URL to start the host2 flow. Let me review the URL again. Okay, the scope response type, and redirect URL, state, once, client ID, and bank ID. Delete this character, and consent ID. Request. Okay, it is ready. Let me open it. Okay, it redirect to the login page. Login, submit. Select the accounts and confirm. When I click the confirm, the browser will redirect back to this URL. This redirect URL and take the code parameter and ID token parameter. Okay, click. Okay, we get we redirect to this URL because this URL is mock URL. It can't show the content. Let me copy the redirect URL. Okay, you can see we already get the code and the ID token and the state. Okay, the third step finished. The fourth step, it need to validate the return parameters. We need to validate the code and the state value and the corresponding hash value in the ID token. Here we have the redirect URL and the state value should be equal with the third step state parameter. So let me check it first. Okay, the state value it is just equal with this state, so the state is valid. And let me parse the ID token. Here is the ID token. We can parse it online. Okay, paste it here. We get the payload, the ID token payload, copy it. Okay, the ID token payload. Here we have another value noise. This value should be equal with the third step noise. It is they are equals. We can see they are equals. And here we have C hash and S hash. C hash, S hash. What is the C hash and the S hash? We can reference this link and this link. Here is the calculator logic. This is one JavaScript implementation, and I supply Java implementation. We can calculate any string with this logic. Okay, let me copy the code. Go to the console. Or start the cell. Okay, let me paste. Now we create this method. Okay, let me calculate the value. Calculate the value. Here is let me calculate the C hash. Copy the code. Copy the code and to code to hash. And the first parameter is the code value, and the second is algorithm. Okay, let me check the ID token again. Here, algorithm. We copy it and change a little. Okay, enter. The method name is wrong. Okay, we get the result. We can compare with, okay, we calculate the code and generate the C hash. Let me compare with this C hash. They are the same value, so C hash is valid. Okay, let me calculate the S hash. Again, here the first parameter should be the state. Let me get the state value, copy it, the state. Enter. We can say the S hash also valid. They are the same value. They are the same value. Okay, the fourth step finished. In this fourth step, we validate the state. Compare with third step parameter state and nonce. Nonce is in the ID token payload. Nonce. And also here C hash and S hash. This value calculate with this logic, and the parameter is just the code and the state. Okay, this is the fourth step. The fifth step, we get the code from the redirect URL. Here the code. We can exchange the code to access token and ID token and refresh token. You can reference this URL. Okay. The first thing we need to do is create another JWT, and again, same with the private key. It prepared at the first step, this private key, and the payload example listed here. Let me copy it. Copy it and paste. Okay, here is the ID token. No, the client ID. Let me copy the client ID. Client ID. And here is also client ID. And this is the token endpoint. The token endpoint is one. And the time modify that it must bigger issue time. And this is the private key. Private key is this private key. Okay, generate. Copy this value. Okay. And we need to exchange the code to access token. Post the follow parameters to this token endpoint. Okay, let me open the postman again. Here is the token endpoint. The client ID, we need supply the client ID. Where is the client ID? Here. The client ID. This value is fixed value, and client assertion is just this JWT. This JWT. And the grant type is code. And the code, where is the code? The code we can get from the third step. This is the code. Redirect URL. Redirect URL right here. Copy it. Okay, ready. Let me send. Okay, we get the access token, ID token, and the refresh token. Copy all the tokens. Exchange token. Okay, the fifth step finished. We call the OBP API endpoint with the access token. The access token prepared at the fifth step. Here is the access token. I copy it. and call this endpoint as an example. Okay, here is the endpoint. Here token. Paste at here, and no body, delete it. Okay, send. We get the response correctly. Okay, the last step is finished. I will upload this video at here. Okay, that's all. Thank you. Bye bye.